Ezra Levant here. I am in Amish country, about 2.5 hours west of Toronto. It's so gorgeous here. As you can see, one of the things the Amish do is they make their own food and they sell it for cash. But the way they go about it is very old-fashioned. Amish, if you don't know, is not just an ethnicity, it's a religious approach. It's a form of Christianity, but they hold that they should not use modern appliances, no electricity, no automobiles. From the outside, their houses look the same as any other farmhouse on this country road, but you'll notice that there's no electricity to it. They have outhouses. They live as they would have lived 250 years ago. Another thing about the Amish is that they're pacifist. They take literally the commandment to turn the other cheek. The Amish have a low profile because of this, and they in my view, live a simple life, and I would even say economically we would call them poor because they only use animal power or human power for their farming, unlike other Christian farmers like the Hutterites of Alberta, which are fully industrialized. So the Amish have a low profile, and frankly, I've never heard of anyone having a problem with the Amish people ever, other than I suppose in times of conscription, the Amish, being pacifists, would have resisted being compelled to fight in a war. But they're completely unobjectionable people. And so when the COVID affliction hit, the Amish, for personal reasons, for religious reasons, and frankly for dating reasons, cross the border from Ontario into the United States all the time. You probably know there's Amish in places like Pennsylvania. And so when they would cross the border and come back, they were asked the absurd question that all Canadians were asked during COVID: have you downloaded the ArriveCan app on your smartphone? Well, none of those words make any sense in Amish culture. They don't have smartphones, as any border guard should have known. The Amish just went through, and unbeknownst to them, they were fined hundreds of thousands of dollars in this community. And, they don't have emails, they don't have phones. So it was only when one of them discovered that there was a lien put on their farm that they realized something was terribly amiss. And through a bit of a miracle, a friend of the Amish, who himself is not Amish, was a follower of Rebel News and heard about our love for crowdfunding civil liberties lawyers at the Democracy Fund. And so a couple of years ago, we started working very carefully with the Amish because they're not belligerent. They, like I said, turn the other cheek. And so the idea of fighting something in court was quite alien to them. But we said, look, we'll be doing the fighting. You will just be yourself. And they accepted this rather carefully at first. But, and I'll bring in our lawyer, Mark Joseph, in a moment to give an update. We discovered that there were about 40 different farms that were hit this way. And imagine all the different people who were involved, from the first instance border guard to their managers, to the people prosecuting them and the judge convicting them and then tagging their homes with a lien. For about 40 or so farms to be hit that way would have had an enormous number of people in the heartless, cruel bureaucracy. And don't tell me that religion wasn't part of it. You have a low-key Christian denomination minding their own business, and part of their religious observance is not to use modern equipment, and you're going after them with a vengeance not seen for anyone else. Oh, I've seen the persecution of other people in Canada during COVID, but for simply not filling out the ArriveCan app, to have their land tagged with a lien that would require them to perhaps sell to pay it off, atrocious. Anyways, we started to work with them, and we started to have some good luck. Let me bring in right now one of the two lawyers who's been on this case, Mark Joseph. He's the head of litigation for the Democracy Fund, and Adam Blake Gallipo, who's not here now, has been doing a lot of the work as well. Come on in, Mark. First of all, thanks very much for coming out here. It's about a 2.5 hour drive from Toronto. I appreciate you doing that. But that's how you have a meeting with the Amish. They don't do Zoom calls. They don't do phone calls typically.
That's right. Yeah, we've had to come to them because, as you say, they don't use technology. And then obviously we had to communicate the case because they're not familiar with legal terms. But we've done that, and now we've had some success reopening the initial tickets. But about 8 families were denied. We're not sure why, and we are going to appeal those.
And I want to talk a lot more about that. But first, let's just talk a little bit more about the Amish. I mean, it's hard to deal with them in a modern system that relies on emails and faxes and things that they just don't have here. So meetings have to be planned in advance. They have to come by mail. They have to attend here by horse and carriage. But I mentioned before, they're so modest, they do not want to appear on camera, not even their voice. And the head of their steering committee, who's sort of like the local mayor, I might say, he doesn't even want his real name used. So these are extremely modest, shy, humble people. And it was actually, I think, a bit of a miracle that we managed to connect with them. But you and Adam Blake Gallipo from the Democracy Fund it wasn't just fight the case. You had to reopen cold cases that had hardened like concrete. Like, these were not alive. These people were tried in absentia, convicted, and a lien put on their homes. That is a hard thing and this all happened 4 or 5 years ago. That is a hard egg to unscramble.
Yeah, we didn't know exactly how we were going to do this before we got involved. We just knew that we had to try. And then it turned out, as the facts disclosed, that these community members didn't know that they had a trial. They weren't informed. They didn't know they were convicted. And as you say, they found out when they had liens appeared on their property, which made transferring the property difficult. So then they had to call a committee with their elders, and the community had to figure out how they were going to deal with this, because, as you say, they avoid conflict, and just engaging with the legal system is adversarial. So they had to overcome that religiously, and then they had to reach out. And by the time we got involved, as you say, these tickets were stale. So we had to apply to the court, explain all that, and in a lot of cases, the court agreed. 24 families, we got the tickets reopened and stayed or zeroed out, but 8 families were denied.
That is curious to me, as I'm sure it's, in fact, I was in the meeting with the Amish community with you for maybe half an hour, and everyone was perplexed, as you and I are. How come 8 people, their convictions stand, but the rest, how many people have you been successful for? Was it 22?
24.
So for 24 farms, for 24 families, it was a justice of the peace, you say, that opened it up, and then usually a deal with the prosecutor realizing this is ridiculous. And I remember in one case they donated some jams and quilts to a local food bank, and just as a small symbol, but they were all freed from these are $5,000 or $6,000 fines, right?
Well, in this case, it's $13,000 plus interest, right? Because the husband and wife.
And what, you know what? That is a family breaking fine. I mean, I'd like our view, and these are poor people. Let's not beat around the bush. The Amish do not live an expensive lifestyle. There's not enough economic power in a animal-driven farm. These are not wealthy people. And by the way, they don't spend money on computers and TVs, and think about all the things that we spend our money on, new cars, stuff like that. To have someone, and I'm going to just say they're poor, to have a poor Christian farmer hit with a $13,000 fine, I can just tell you they do not have that money. They just do not have that money. That would be like $100,000 to a non-Amish home.
Right. I mean, they're subsistence farmers. They don't use electricity. So they sell their excess produce for $10, $20.
Yeah, like seriously, we're going to buy some pickles and pies and jams today, and that's going to be an economic boom to this farm. They're not rich people.
Right. So as you say, these fines would be crippling. They can't transfer their farms. They can't get the loans to buy the minimal equipment they need. It freezes the community, and it's very disruptive.
And it's stressful, because I can assure you these people are not legally sophisticated. No one here is running to court to settle this quarrel or that. And the idea of being taken to going, and by the way, even getting to the court, get ready for a horse and carriage ride. Help me understand this, and this is what we were talking about a little bit in the meeting there. Why are 24 families free to go, but 8 not? Is there any indication? Like, they're in my mind, they're cookie cutter cases. They're identical. Amish people not filling out the ArriveCan app when crossing the border. There is no material difference whatsoever. In fact, the government doesn't know any more than that. Why are 24 families? Why were you able to free 24 families, but 8 the justice of the peace refused?
That's something that we're not clear on because there weren't a lot of substantive reasons in the denials that we received for these 8 individuals. So we're a little bit in the dark here, but we have some arguments to make at the Ontario Court of Justice during the appeal, and one of those is going to be that there's a parity principle here, that the like cases should be treated alike.
That's another way of saying what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Sure, everyone should receive the same standard or be judged by the same standard. So that's troubling. We're not sure why some were reopened and some were not, but we'll see what the judge does in the Ontario court.
Now, we were talking there, and every battle, it's so much more logistically challenging. The family involved had to show up in person, review the document, sign it by hand, like just even to arrange today's meeting, something that would, you would do on a Zoom call these days. And like I say, if they have to physically get to the courthouse, that, depending on which courthouse, that could be a major journey. Just the process is so much more punishing for these folks, even the process of digging them out. And there could be a lot of steps. So 8 cases at the lowest court failed. Today you were signing documents to appeal those to the, what's the name of the court you're appealing?
Ontario Court of Justice.
And God forbid that fails, there's the Superior Court on top of that.
That's right, yeah.
And then God forbid that fails. I think that would be an appeal to the Court of Appeal. I'm not sure.
We think the Court of Appeal, yeah.
So and then God forbid, may it never happen that that's a loss. You could seek leave to appeal to the Supreme Court of Canada. So there's actually a lot of opportunities to win, but it's insane that you have to go through this for these families. It's insane that Ontario's Attorney General is opposing you every step of the way. You would think that the Crown would do this by consent, like a kind of plea bargain. They'll do a plea bargain for violent criminals, but they're holding these Amish farmers to some extreme standard. And this is what I said in the meeting I said to them, I'm having some very non-Amish thoughts. I said, I didn't say those things out loud because these are peaceful people, but Lord Thunder and Jesus, was I getting angry just thinking about this?
Well, I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I have to be diplomatic about it. And the process here is opaque to lawyers. We're not sitting in the Crown's office. We're not sitting in the JP's office. So we don't know why these decisions are made, but there are some judicial resources that are spent pursuing these cases where there's some violent crime that goes unpunished or uninvestigated.
Well, that's the thing. So there's 24 cases that you've succeeded and 8 that you're dealing with that are still to fight. Is my math right?
That's right, yeah.
Okay, so 32 cases. You and Adam Blake Gallipo work for the Democracy Fund. That's why we're crowdfunding. And by the way, if you haven't chipped in yet, this is a good time. Go to helptheamish.com. You got a charitable tax receipt. So, you're not billing these folks, obviously, which is, I mean, they wouldn't, that's an alien concept to them. But you and I and everyone else are actually paying for the bad guys here too. We're paying for the prosecutors. We're paying for the process that is the punishment. I just got to think, you're a prosecutor. Would you rather fight a home invasion crime? Would you rather fight a gangland crime? Or are you getting some sort of sick thrill going after these 18th century style Christian recluses?
Well, look, I don't know why this is happening. I can only take a legal position when I'm in court, and our donors have generously donated to help us in this fight, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to appeal it as much as we can until we're told no. So,
well, that's the right answer, and I'm just mad because I am mad. Let me tell you one of the things I like about the Amish, and it hit me when I was in there. So there was about a half a dozen folks in the meeting there. And I go to a lot of meetings. And in all the meetings I go, everyone's checking their phone. Everyone's attention span is shut. Everyone is thinking about 10 other things. When you're talking to the Amish, no one's got their cell phone out because they don't have cell phones. They're very present and they think about things. And, they talk maybe 10% more slowly than you do in Toronto because they're not in a race. They're not rushing to get out of there. And, the whole family came with the horse and carriage, and the kids, and even there was a little baby, and they were so impossibly cute. The little boys are wearing the Amish hats, and the little girls with the kerchiefs. I wish we could have shown those pictures, but we promised them, as per their wishes, that we would not show. So life is different. The Amish life is different. I don't think it's a life for me, but I can see why they want to keep it, and I can see what a dangerous threat this prosecution is. I think one of the first cases that detected, like, how do you detect there's a lien on your property? Someone puts a lien on your property, maybe you're not going to know until you try and bequeath the farm from someone who passes away, father to son. And that was one of the, imagine you have a death in the family, you're passing on the farm to father and son, you got the funeral, there's the sorrow and the loss and the personal loss, and then you discover the government has a lien on your home. This is when you learn about it. I mean, adding a layer of stress and fear to these folks, it is un-Canadian.
Yeah, look, these are lawyers deal in black and white legal laws, and sometimes we've got the real people behind this. They have beautiful families, they live a beautiful lifestyle, and you get to see that and you realize it's worth fighting for. And as you say, they can't exist with liens on their properties and fines in this amount.
Well, I told the boss of the steering committee, who I've gotten to know a little bit in my various visits here, that I want him to keep spreading the word amongst the other Amish communities, because, you know, every neighborhood in Canada has a Facebook page for this neighborhood, that neighborhood, where typically the moms share the updates of what's going on. And, you know, where I come from, this house was broken into, this car was stolen. Like, it's all bad news. But there's no Amish Facebook page. They're not on Facebook. So it's people meeting people at events. Church, of course, is the center of the week, and everybody obviously goes to church. So it's really word of mouth or writing letters by hand. So as far as we know, there may be many more cases out there besides the 30 or so, the 38, 32 that you've detected. There may be more cases out there. One of the cases you're dealing with, the Amish is from Ohio. He was hit with this fine when he came up here. So there may be Amish on the other side of the border who, when they try and come into Canada, are told you can't come until you pay a $7,000 fine.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. It might turn out that an Amish community member goes to a bank, tries to get a loan, sees the lien, realizes there's a fine, and then hopefully they come to us and we'll have to take on the case.
And that was another one of the cases. A guy tries to get a loan to buy livestock. He's done it before. The bank says, sure, we'll just attach it to your house as collateral. Oh, we can't do that. Like, imagine the shock. Well, listen, Mark, I'm glad that you and Adam are fighting this. And by the way, I was on my best behavior. I did not swear in there. I didn't even say even gentle swears, because I'm on my best behavior here. But I did tell them I was thinking very un-Amish thoughts when I was thinking about the government. Listen, I'm joking around, because what else are you going to do besides laugh, right? We have been fighting. How long have you been fighting this battle?
Year and a half, 2 years maybe.
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of cases. You can see our past reports at helptheamish.com. I can't get over the fact that the government still thinks this is a prosecutorial priority. Literally on my street, there are SUVs being stolen right off the lane and home invasions. And this is a prosecutorial priority. I wouldn't do well as an Amish. I would have anger issues if I were an Amish. That's what they would probably have. They wouldn't use that term. They would probably say, you need to do some more praying, Levant. But the name Ezra would fit right in with the Amish community. I'm making jokes because what else are you going to do? I need your help. Go to helptheamish.com. This is a battle. Let me tell you what I said to the head of the steering committee, who told me not to use his full name. I said to him that we will be there with you as we appeal to the Superior Court, as we appeal to the Court of Appeal, as we appeal all the way up, because we will not get tired. In fact, God forbid, if we lose this round of appeal, we'll get the opposite of tired. We'll get angrier. Again, an un-Amish feeling. So Rebel News does the crowdfunding. The Democracy Fund is the charity that issues the tax receipts and pays the lawyers, Mark here and Adam. So we're going to keep this up. Thanks for inviting me out here. Every time I come out, I made the mistake once of buying every pickle jar that they had, like every one of them. So now, whenever they hear I'm coming, they spend the month pickling, making jam, making pie, because they sort of know here comes the sucker. Here comes the guy who buys all the stuff in our cellar. So it's sort of, I mean, I like coming here, but it's a $250 touch every time I come out here just buying pickles.
Yeah, look, the stuff is good. It's worthwhile. I got some in my fridge, so I'll be getting more.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to eat all the pickles myself. I'm going to bring them back to the office, but it's the least I can do, and I hope you'll help me help the Amish.com. I love coming out here, but I'm coming out here because something bad happened. So help me fix it. Thanks very much.